Warning, this video will contain spoilers from the show Steven Universe. It is advised that you catch up before watching this video. If you are not up to date with the show but want to watch this video anyways, tread lightly. You have been warned. Hello everyone, Lazy here with another theory video. Now before I do get knee deep in today's theory, I just wanted to say that I am most likely going to get some things wrong in this video. Trust me when I say that there is a lot of stuff I'm going to go over. So if I make a simple mistake and someone corrects me, then I will try and correct that in the video. This is where I have to say, please read the description or pinned comment. I know they're not interesting enough to read, but I promise it can save everyone some time. Especially if I had made a side note on the video with an annotation. Okay, sorry for adding extra seconds like that. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was notified about that. Now I am really proud of this theory, but even if this theory becomes disproven or just has too many holes in it to make it solid, I'm more than ecstatic to talk about this with all of you. With that out of the way, let's get started. Now I'm going to cut to the chase and say that this theory is about what happened between Rose, Pink Diamond, and White Diamond, and what I think happened that caused Pink Diamond to be shattered. Hold it! Hello, Edit Lazy popping in to say an important message. This theory has been talked about before on Akeem Lawson's channel. No, there was no stealing involved, but his theory does talk about Rose, Pink Diamond, and White Diamond in the same way I do here. If you don't like this version of the theory or my end result, then please check out his. He uses real-life gem logic to help with his theory and brings up points that I never even thought about. It's a real good video and I highly suggest watching it. Just wanted to point that out before things became a mess. On with the theory! Now, fans of the show should remember about the temple mural we saw in the episode Serious Steven, and how it has spawned plenty of theories after it was first shown. My thought on this mural is that it is telling us how Pink Diamond was shattered. I won't be able to talk about all the temple murals, but I will mostly be talking about the middle one here, since this part of the mural is a lot easier for me to read than the other ones. Let me explain what each figure is in this mural, then I'll explain what I think it is telling us. I'll start from the left. Here we see a bunch of gems that were there during the event that is being shown. They are most likely Rose's followers, but it could very well be a mix of both the crystal gems and homeworld gems that were fighting it out, but stopped to watch the other two figures. Next is the pink figure that is obviously our Rose Quartz, but it seems like she is holding something in front of her. Let me skip over that for a minute and talk about the gem that Mural Rose is next to. Now, I have seen plenty of theories on who this gem could be, but I think we all can agree that it is most likely a diamond. Which diamond it is, though, is what everyone seems so split about. If we look at the murals we had seen at the old moon base and compare them to the temple mural, the only diamond that seems to match up with the temple mural is White Diamond herself, but we can go a bit further into proving that it is White Diamond. 1. The color of this diamond on both murals are white. If it was any other diamond, they would have color-coded the temple diamond either blue or yellow. Remember, a gem's color is very important on Homeworld. This can be backed up by Rebecca Sugar herself when, during a BuzzFeed interview, she had talked about what color gem Connie would have. As quoted, "If Connie were a gem, I think she would be a gem that is teal. She has the diplomatic skills of blue gem, but she also is able to take action. She would be a gem that would be between blue and green." Clearly, a gem's color is more important, so if the temple diamond was any other color than white, then it would have been that colored diamond. Next is the gem placement on both murals. This one is a bit hard to point out since we can't really see the temple mural's gem, but we can clearly debunk that this isn't blue or yellow diamond since there's no chest gem on the temple diamond. And before people say that the upside down triangle is a gem, it isn't. It's part of the outfit the temple diamond has on. And finally, the most obvious one of them all, the hairstyle. Call me crazy, but neither blue or yellow have Super Saiyan hair. One can argue that it could be Pink Diamond based on this logic, but Pink's hair is more unkempt and ruffled looking than Super Saiyan pointy. Now, let's go back to that item Mural Rose is holding in front of her. Now, judging from its shape and its color, this item that Rose is holding is Pink Diamond's gem. Now, I can hear the typing of some skeptics right now, but let me explain how I think it is Pink Diamond's gem. Now, everyone remembers Rose's sword, right? Well, here's the thing. Rose's sword isn't designed to shatter a gem, it's only efficient in poofing a gem. This is proven by BISMUTH, the one that made Rose that sword. In the episode BISMUTH, she says, "I designed this sword for a fair fight. It can cut through a gem's physical form in an instant, destroying the body but never the gem." Going off of this, it is safe to say that the most damage that Rose ever did to Pink Diamond was cutting through her physical body. Even though the diamonds are these powerful leaders, it is possible that if you hit them at just the right spot, you can poof them. The same can be said for a diamond's gem, but I will talk about that later. So when Rose fought Pink Diamond, the most she could do was poof Pink, but that's all she really wanted to do. After all, even if Rose did have a weapon to shatter gems, I don't think even Rose had it in her to shatter her own diamond. With her own hands, anyways. Now that we have pointed out the majority of figures in the temple mural, let's see what's going on. The gems on the left are either in the middle of fighting or having stopped because of the fight happening in the middle. Rose and Pink Diamond had fought prior to what is happening in the mural, but Rose had poofed her and ultimately won the battle. After Pink Diamond was poofed, White Diamond had either shown up right at that point or she was there during the fight between Pink and Rose and is now stepping in fully. Here, Rose might have tried to make a deal with White Diamond, that if they leave Earth alone, she will let Pink Diamond go. White Diamond, refusing the deal, went to attack Rose with a powerful attack, thinking that Rose was just bluffing about hurting Pink Diamond. After all, a gem wouldn't dare hurt their beloved diamond, right? Rose, probably expecting White to react like she did, held up Pink Diamond's gem against the attack. White Diamond's attack hit Pink Diamond, thus shattering her gem. Now, there are questions that could disprove this claim, so let me answer some of them. 1. If there were witnesses there to see this, why did they blame Rose for shattering Pink Diamond even though it was White Diamond's attack that finished her off? While it was White that had shattered Pink Diamond, Rose was the one that held her gem up against the attack. Homeworld gems are going to obviously blame Rose for what happened and not their leader that they clearly look up to. The crystal gems, on the other hand, were most likely shocked or mortified at the fact that Rose was the one that held Pink, her own diamond, up against the attack. Sure, it showed how powerful the crystal gems were and they became victorious afterwards, but no one is going to ignore the fact that Rose technically killed Pink Diamond. Think of it like this. While Rose didn't do the actual shattering, she still held Pink Diamond in place as her determined sister accidentally killed her. She made it impossible for Pink to escape. That's the equivalent of holding someone down while someone unwillingly shoots them. Dark? Yes. Necessary? Most likely. War changes people, and what Rose did just showed how far she was willing to go to protect the Earth. She did try to reason with White, but because of White's unwillingness to cooperate, Rose did the last available option. It's like Garnet said, "We all did what we had to do during the war. Everything's different now." She had to. The Earth belonged to Pink Diamond. Destroying her was the only way to save the planet. 2. Why did White Diamond come to Earth instead of blue or yellow? White Diamond is possibly the most powerful gem out of all the Diamond Authority. Having her go and help Pink fight would have turned the war over to Homeworld. Blue and yellow were in the war, but they were most likely taking care of background stuff, like plan attacks on certain crystal gem bases, trying to build their own bases on Earth, or trying to get things like the gem experiments in kindergartens done while Pink and White were on the front lines. 3. It's not White Diamond, it's Fusion Diamond. Sadly, no. The diamond in the temple mural is clearly one diamond. If it was a diamond fusion, there would have been more than one gem on the mural, mostly on the chest since both yellow and blue have chest gems. Plus, the color would have been different. Then again, the fusion of the diamonds might be a clear fusion, and depending on what angle the light is hitting might show the color diamond. That would be pretty to see, to be honest. 4. Why would Rose want to poof Pink Diamond? Short answer, the moon base plans and the zoo. The really long answer? While the moon base plans could have been made by anyone, it was on Pink's moon base, not anyone else's. Not going to say that Pink was alone in making those plans, but it was clear that she was going to go through with said plans. No one was forcing her to do anything with her own colony. Pink might have just gotten some help from the other diamonds since Earth and its moon was her first and last colony. She probably didn't know what exactly to do with it, but this doesn't change the fact that the Earth and its moon were hers to control, and she, like the rest of the diamonds, were going to use its resources and make new gems and completely colonize it. She's a diamond, remember? It's her responsibility to do these sort of things for Homeworld. Especially if they were to run out of resources, which Earth clearly has. And her zoo? Well, I'm not going to beat around the bush here, but let's make it clear that Pink Diamond was just interested in human life, not the fact that each human was something that should be handled with love and care. They probably didn't figure that out till way later. Which brings up the question of how much did Pink Diamond and her gems actually know about the humans? Sure, they knew that everything on Earth was organic life, but humans are strange and difficult creatures to figure out. I mean, we don't even know all that much about our own species. That's why we study each other, after all. So what would they know about humans? I might be overthinking this, but who's to say that Homeworld didn't just experiment with the humans at the zoo? Now, I'm not saying that they would go as far as to stitch them together or any body horror things like that. I mean, they do enough of that with their own kind, after all. But they had to learn things about the humans somehow. They didn't learn about humans like the crystal gems did. And let's not forget the fact that the starting zoo was probably a mess in comparison to the first wave of captured humans' mental health. The zoo looks great now, but then again, it has been worked on for over 5,000 years. I feel sorry for the humans who had to go through the changing stages of said zoo, though. Who knows what they had to go through before they finally died. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit off track here. All in all, the zoo was probably terrifying in the beginning stages, so it would make sense for Rose to step in like she did. Long story short, Rose didn't want the Earth and all of its living creatures to be destroyed, and she especially didn't want any humans being in that zoo. So she went against Pink Diamond, even if it did result in the war and the cluster later on. It was clear that Pink Diamond was set in her ways, and Rose didn't agree with her Diamond's plans. 5. When Pink's shattering was brought up by Eyeball, Pearl looked upset while Garnet looked worried, shocked. Why? Alright, this isn't much of a question that could change much, but I wanted to answer regardless. Pearl and Garnet were most likely there when Pink was shattered, otherwise they would have tried to defend Rose and call Eyeball a liar once they were all alone and safe. Garnet was mostly worried that Steven was there and that he had to hear what Rose did from someone else, and the fact that Pink Diamond was even brought up. Pearl was most likely upset for a couple of reasons. She wanted to defend Rose, but couldn't because Rose technically did shatter Pink. She is still mortified at how far Rose had to go to save the Earth, but wants to keep her memory of Rose pure. Or she didn't want Steven to know what Rose had done and is upset that he had to find out this way. 6. But didn't Eyeball say that Rose shattered Pink with her sword? Nope. While Eyeball did mention that Rose shattered Pink Diamond, it wasn't until the episode Bubble that she even mentions Rose's sword, and that it was the weapon that she remembered Rose using overall. Eyeball never put those two memories together. They were mentioned at 2 different points in the series. Plus, even if Rose did use her sword to fight Pink Diamond, she wouldn't get far into shattering her, since the only way to shatter a diamond is most likely to get another diamond to shatter them. 7. Earlier you mentioned if Rose had a weapon to shatter gems, she wouldn't have used it. Didn't she use the breaking point that BISMUTH made? I figured this would be a question, so let me explain. Simply put it, Rose never used the breaking point. Rose had outright refused to use it, and she stood by her word. This can be backed up with the fact that when BISMUTH went to retrieve the breaking point, it was right where she had left it before she was poofed by Rose. If Rose did, in fact, use the breaking point, then the weapon would have been somewhere else. Maybe in Lion's Mane, or destroyed if she did use it. And no, BISMUTH didn't make more than 1 breaking point. She had only made 1. And even if Rose did use the breaking point, would it really be strong enough to shatter a diamond? Now, I'm sure there are more questions like this, but I can't think up of any more at this moment. If you have a question that brings this theory into question, just go ahead and make a comment about it. I will try and answer it to the best of my ability. For anyone that may have gotten lost, here's the summary. Rose poofed Pink Diamond, White Diamond came in, or was already there, and decided to step in to help Pink Diamond. Rose tried to make a deal with White in return for Pink's safety. White Diamond disagreed with the deal and attacked Rose. Rose, having no other options left, used Pink Diamond's gem as a shield against White's attack, thus shattering her completely. And that's the theory for today, guys. I hope that you were at least entertained enough to enjoy this video. If not, then leave a comment below with some feedback on how I can do better. I try and read everyone's comments, so don't be afraid to say something. If there are enough of the same question, then make sure to read the description. I will most likely update it with the question and the answer I can provide it. Phew, that was a lot of information to get out. Now, I had wanted to say this at the beginning, but I wanted to get right into the theory. But I just wanted to say that I honestly did not expect my last video to get so much feedback within such a short amount of time. I was expecting only a couple views within the first week, but then more and more people viewed it and I had figured it was just going to be washed away under the piles and piles of other theory videos, but here we are, 100,000 views later. Thank you everyone for giving me the time of day, even if you didn't like the video. With that, I bid my little ghostlings farewell. Lazy out.